We wanted to travel across Canada for years, so we finally quit talking about it and just did it. We visited and geocached in all 10 provinces, and in the month we were gone, we found about 1,700 geocaches. One of the things we saw was Canada's oldest geocache. But how did we get there? Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, PEI, Nova Scotia, Bay of Fundy, and Newfoundland. Well, there's the navigator, Mrs. Kootenai Pirate. The driver, that's me, Mr. Kootenai Pirate. And the wildcard, Granitic Intrusions. Hey, enough with the intros. Let's go geocaching. Indian Head, Saskatchewan. Manitoba was interesting. I never thought about it before, but it's the center of Canada. And that's Mrs. Pirate trying to have a seat right at the center of Canada. We sure did see lots of old farm equipment. Granitic Intrusions and I used to live here as kids. We took a northern route through Ontario. That way we got to see more Ontario and less city. Lake Superior was high on the bucket list, and we had a great time exploring some of the coastline. Canada has so many awesome places to visit, like Hearst, Ontario, Kapuskasing, Ontario, and Moonbeam, Ontario. And then there's Cochrane, Ontario, with its polar bears. In Quebec, Granitic Intrusions translated all the French cache pages. That kept us laughing. That's our little cabin in Quebec along the St. Lawrence River. It even has a hot tub. We liked it so much, we stayed here on the way home, and both times we got to see some awesome sunsets. In Val-d'Or, Quebec, we had supper at a pub right downtown. Hey, you gotta do what the locals do. And that was an excellent adventure. As we continued our epic journey, we just had to stop in Edmundston, New Brunswick and get a few geocaches. The news had us concerned about forest fires, but they must have got them all out because we didn't see any smoke. Kootenai Pirates, wow, we're happy. We just found New Brunswick's oldest geocache. And there's Granitic Intrusions. He found it too. The Maritimes have a lot of lighthouses. And quite a few large fish on display also. Mr. Kootenai Pirate and Granitic Intrusions. You know, there's a cache in those trees behind us. Covered bridges are plentiful in eastern Canada, while you hardly ever see one in western Canada. That's Mrs. Kootenai Pirate and Granitic Intrusions. They're trying to figure out an adventure lab. You know, covered bridges are excellent for photo ops, as well as geocaches. Train museums, they're educational, as well as great places to find geocaches. We saw a lot of cemeteries, and a lot of headstones from the early 1800s. Fog is another thing we saw a lot more of than back home. Here's a cemetery with a partially intact church. The church still has its organ, but I bet you it needs a good tuning. Hey, notice how they spell KFC, even here in New Brunswick? And the logging trucks. They sure have little crooked logs compared to back home. Mrs. Kootenai Pirate, she really enjoyed finding caches near covered bridges. A relic from times gone by. An old schoolhouse. No indoor plumbing, it's got an outhouse. Yet another seemingly abandoned church. I guess this must be the world's biggest axe. Oh, we sure had fun playing and caching around Magnetic Hill. That's my brother, Granitic Intrusions. And us, the Kootenai Pirates, we're on the PEI end of the Confederation Bridge. The Confederation Bridge is 13 kilometers long and connects the provinces of PEI and New Brunswick. As you can see, it was quite windy when we got to PEI. Granitic Intrusions made the find, and that's us, the Kootenai Pirates, smiling away because we also found PEI's oldest geocache. It was hard to breathe walking past this lighthouse. There's all the sand blowing around. It was much nicer on the beach. This lighthouse is actually still in active use. Hey, we bought our fresh lobsters near here. Another lighthouse. I've lost track of how many we've seen. Wow, That's the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Not quite the Atlantic Ocean yet. Dramatic intrusions. Oh man, he had the biggest smile. Mrs. Goody Pirate. Do you think it's windy? The windy, but famous red cliffs of PEI's East Shore. Yum, those are the fresh lobsters I told you we just bought in PEI. Better get a picture, we're about to make a huge mess. Strange, but geocaches and wild apples just seem to go together in the Maritimes. That's PEI's flag. The next day, we returned to PEI for more geocaches, but I also wanted to get a bottle of PEI's potato vodka. And of course, see more of PEI's red cliffs. There's yet another old lighthouse. Mrs. Cutie Pirate finding a geocache far, far from home. See? There's another lighthouse out there. I was going to buy us each a piece of fudge from this lighthouse, but it was closed. So I just wiped the drool off my face and checked out some boats. We found a couple geocaches near this lighthouse. Dramatic intrusions, checking out some of PEI's unique geology. Even Mrs. Cooney Pirate got sidetracked while looking for a geocache. And then it's back to business. Find that geocache! Some of these old churches are jaw-dropping. But look, it's another... I'm not even going to say it. There's one of PEI's wind turbines doing its job. And there's Mrs. Pirate searching for a cache far below. Ocean-going fishing boats. Saw plenty of those. Oh boy, guess what? We even got to go for an early morning hike around an old fort in New Brunswick. We couldn't think of a better way to start the day. Dramatic intrusions, finding a cache in the early morning sun. Hopewell Rocks in the Bay of Fundy in New Brunswick was another thing on the bucket list. Wow! We got there early before too many people got there, and it was great wandering around seeing what Mother Nature was up to. Some of the highest tides in the world happen right here. The tides can get to 14 meters, or 46 feet, and sure cause some stunning formations. Mrs. Cooney Pirate didn't find many geocache treasures here, but found many other visual treasures. Granitic intrusions, just checking to see how slippery the rocks are. And that's my happy and beautiful wife. It's amazing what water can do. No, Mrs. Pirate, that moose is too big for a mascot. Really? Well, we didn't time the tide right to do the hike here. Hey, look at that! It's a lighthouse! This was a great spot to find a geocache. Mrs. Cutie Pirate and her unnamed lobster mascot. Geocaching took us to a very interesting beach in Nova Scotia. Yeah, we even got to do a nice beach walk along the Atlantic Ocean. The water has carved some pretty bizarre shapes into the rocks here too. Mrs. Pirate watching granitic intrusions while he snoops in the natural caves. Sitting pretty during low tide. In the Atlantic Ocean. Lobster feels right at home here. Look at that big smile. But Mrs. Pirate has an even bigger smile. It was the perfect day for a beach walk and finding geocaches. Mrs. Kootenai Pirate was the only one brave enough to actually take off her boots and get into the Atlantic Ocean. Today, I wish I joined her. I can't even imagine how much money was spent to build some of these huge churches. Hey, geocaching in airplanes. Now that's my kind of caching. I'm sure every avid geocacher would just love to log a find on this cache. And of course, get a photo of themselves at the plaque. You know, I bet the locals here take views like this for granted. Our little walk showed us some beautiful views. Huh, and a geocache too. And that's Mrs. Kootenai Pirate actually making the find on Canada's first geocache. And then the three of us headed to Peggy's Cove, only because it's an area that you always hear about. Oh, plus there's a lot of geocaches near there. That's a typical schooner you'd expect to see in Nova Scotia. And this looks like a magazine picture of a maritime village. Even had some local talent blowing his rather large horn. That's Lobster, with Peggy's Cove Lighthouse in the background. Lobster looks so happy to breathe the salt air and not be stuck on some store shelf. Ooh, that's one rusty anchor. Oh, that looks charming, but I bet you it's a rough life. We've got to stay 2 nights in this fifth wheel trailer, once on the way to Newfoundland and again on the way back. The ferry between PEI and Newfoundland takes about 7 hours each way. We were surprised to see these ferries so much smaller than the Vancouver Island ferries.
On our way to Newfoundland, and pretty no land in sight.
Sitting on the ferry, I don't know who's got the bigger smile, Lobster or Mrs. Pirate. Grand Attic Intrusions also has a huge smile. We got to Newfoundland just before sunset, so Mrs. Pirate had picked out a spot where we could find a cache and maybe catch the sunset. It was a perfect choice to find our first Newfoundland geocache and see our first Newfoundland sunset. That's our ocean view off the deck of our B&B. And our kitchen, complete with a tired pirate. And a cozy living room that completed our Newfoundland bed and breakfast. Not sure what Lobster's thinking. He found a color-matching trap. Our navigator, figuring out where to go next. Mrs. Kootenai Pirate, she just had to find the cache at Pirates Haven in Newfoundland. Grand Attic Intrusions, he was so happy to be on Canada's east coast. And what a beautiful coast it is. We found several geocaches and had a whole lot of fun around St. George's, Newfoundland. Mrs. Kootenai Pirate and Grand Attic Intrusions, they just found a stage of an adventure lab. You know, we just had to get our picture at the Newfoundland sign. And there's Grand Attic Intrusions, finding a Newfoundland cache. Mrs. Pirate signs the logbook while Grand Attic Intrusions plays with the toys. One of the things we noticed about Newfoundland is that it has a lot of rocks. Lobster, sucking up the salt air and enjoying the sun. It's pretty obvious Grand Attic Intrusions is having a good time. Mr. and Mrs. Kootenai Pirate in Newfoundland. That's our ferry on the horizon, so I guess we should start heading back. Didn't want to go, but we just had to find one more cache before leaving. Grand Attic Intrusions. I don't know, GPS says the cache is right here. And it was. Mrs. Pirate signing the log. Lobster and Mrs. Pirate trying to catch the logbook blowing in the wind. Well, unfortunately, we did make it back to the ferry, and here it is, pulling away from Newfoundland. None of us were too excited about leaving Newfoundland. We wish we could stay another day. We had so much fun, and there's so much more to see. Newfoundland certainly has some interesting shoreline villages. And that's Grand Attic Intrusions. He's already planning a trip back. I'm pretty sure Mrs. Kootenai Pirate is thinking the same thing. Hey, lucky for us, the fun wasn't over yet. Next stop, Shediac, New Brunswick. And that's our maritime-themed cabin in New Brunswick. I'm not sure, but this could be the world's biggest lobster. The weather was almost perfect the entire trip. Well, I stuck my hand in there as far as I dared. And then Genetic Intrusions really got into it. Literally. And now we're off to find another Maritime Adventure Lab. Suddenly, we had two mascots and a pirate trying to hide her smile. On the way back, I got to stay at another cabin along the St. Lawrence and just outside of Quebec City. Mrs. Kootenai Pirate, ready for her refreshment. We had a lot of fun exploring and finding geocaches in Nipigon, Ontario. Our moose mascot showing us the sunrise in Fort Frances, Ontario. These big chairs sure make you feel little, but it looks like he's having a lot of fun. We saw some colorful signs reminding us not to litter. Genetic Intrusions got this beauty shot of a train coming into Canada at Fort Frances, Ontario. And this beautiful sunrise in Manitoba. And a stunning sunset in Manitoba. Another excellent photo taken by Genetic Intrusions. The logbook from PEI's oldest geocache. Look at this headstone from 1811. And here's another one from 1831. We had such a good time on our cross-Canada trip. We just couldn't believe it when our 31 days was over. We had traveled over 15,000 kilometers and we'd found over 1,700 geocaches. And we're already talking about doing it again. I'm going to end this video with a collage of random cross-Canada photos.